Nintendo? More like Ninten Grow. I gotta I gotta open more videos like a traditional news story. Nintendo? More like Ninten Grow. This Japanese company is growing internally in preparation for next gen. I have the story. So yeah, Nintendo has been steadily growing. President Furukawa talked about it in the latest investor meeting. Before we really get into it, can I just say, good to hear. You know, just my knee-jerk reaction, my early take is that's good. It's really good to hear. It is good to know that they are properly preparing themselves for next gen. When I think about the idea of Nintendo being prepared for a generation, I cannot help but think about the Wii U generation. And I'm not an expert on this, and I don't know everything that there is to know, so I might be totally off base here, but I do remember that, like, it seems like a really big problem with the Wii U's library was that Nintendo was just genuinely not prepared for HD development, and so, like, that's one of the reasons they struggled to get out enough games, because they just had a problem with that, and I was like, did they not hire enough people? Like, I really don't know. How did you not see this coming? They were like the only company in the entire world that I ever saw that was like, wait a minute, this is harder than we thought. HD! So I don't know, there's still part of me that just like I can't forget that. So I'm just like, okay, I don't know exactly what happened there, but at least it's good to know going into next gen, they seem to be really, really preparing. I don't know if before it was a lack of preparedness or what, but good. This is a good thing. And it's funny because most companies in their position, the way that they grow is by purchasing studios. We've gone over this before. Nintendo, they just don't like to buy studios. They don't do it very often. Normally, they like to do it their own way. They like to grow internally. They like to do it organically, build up their own teams within the company. And I can certainly understand that. I think there is a value to buying external companies, and whatever. That's a whole discussion. But yeah, it is cool. You know, you grow them internally. You just have more control. You are able to keep a better eye on all the people who are working for you on your projects and all that stuff. So let's look at the numbers. Let's look at this very helpful tweet from the always very helpful Stealth40K. Nintendo added 400 plus employees to their headcount last year. They are currently the biggest they have ever been as a company. And here's where it gets crazy. In 2017, the beginning of the Switch generation, they had 5,000 employees. In 2024, they are almost at 8,000. Nintendo is in growth mode again before Switch 2. I did not I knew they had been growing. You know, again, Furukawa mentions it every once in a while, but like, I did not know they have grown that much just this generation. They have nearly doubled their employee count since the beginning of the Switch generation. That is nuts. That is a really substantial amount of growth, especially for a company like Nintendo. You see that kind of growth in another company, that's nothing, because you know that most of those people are just going to get fired later anyway. That's the whole boom and bust cycle. You overhire and then you overfire to save, but we've been talking about it endlessly recently. But Nintendo's not like that. When they hire employees, they plan to keep these employees. And if their business has nearly doubled, then that means that they are, I don't know, they're doing the work. They're in this for the long haul, you know? They really want to make sure they are fully prepared for the future of their company and their brands and their IPs and everything, and it's really cool to see. And they are definitely prepping for next gen. You know, I mean, that almost goes without saying, but I do wonder how much of this growth is a direct response to simply achieving more success. You know what I mean? They're just selling more games and making more money, and of course they're creating more products, and now they're getting into movies and all this stuff too. So I wonder how much of that is just the natural growth of a successful company. You know, they have more money now, they can afford more people, and then maybe use that to create more stuff, you know, whether it is games or movies or all of the above. And on that note, I also have to wonder if this kind of growth is simply necessary to just kind of be where they are, or does this also mean more games? Like, of course I'm gonna look at this from the perspective of the customer. Me like video games, so me wonder, Nintendo Grow, make more games me play? I don't know. And of course, it could be a combination of things. It could be that partially, yes, they are, they just have more internal studios now to produce more games. And of course, this is still growing from the whole merging of their home console and handheld divisions. They have just been putting out a ridiculous number of games this generation, and it's been amazing. It could be that this growth will lead to even more games, maybe. But then, no doubt, a lot of this is just because of rising development costs. That's the thing. Their next system is going to be that big of a graphical jump, and the better the graphical tech, the graphical capabilities of your hardware, unfortunately, that just means the games are that much more expensive to produce. You just need that many more programmers and artists and, environmental and technical and animators and just all of this different stuff. It just gets more expensive to make games. They've been developing for the Switch. It is ancient tech. It's ancient and much more affordable. But that's the thing. If the Switch 2 is like a PS4 Pro, then people are more or less going to expect games to look like games that you would play on the PS4 Pro. And that's the thing, is right now, most of the new games on the new systems are cross-gen. They really don't look that much better running on current gen hardware. You look at God of War on PS5. It looks almost identical to the version that you would play on PS4 Pro. And yet those are the kinds of games that are the competition is just spending hundreds of millions of dollars on. And we know Nintendo doesn't want to do that. They don't like this whole they always like to be economical. They like to strike a balance between, a game that is really appealing to a lot of people, but didn't really take quite as much money to make. Sometimes they'll go all out. They do that a lot for Zelda. Whatever, getting too deep here. Point is, they're going to be working with better hardware, and that means higher development costs. So I am really, sincerely, just so intensely curious how Nintendo is going to contend with that. They're not going to want to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on all these games, but there is going to be something of an expectation from the audience. When you're putting out games that are huge and beautiful and look almost as good as the competition, are you going to be able to sell a remake of a Game Boy game, and charge almost full price for it? Can you even put enough into it? Are you going to want to spend that much money on it? So this whole issue of just rising dev costs and all that, it's very interesting. And going into next gen, I don't necessarily know how they're going to do it. I'm a little bit worried that, as far as the investors go, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Nintendo to raise prices to sell games for more and more money, and to maybe even introduce more monetization and all that stuff. And, I don't doubt Nintendo will maintain some level of integrity here. I don't think they're going to go full on EA or anything, but it is a thing. This is me going way too far. I just realized I'm really going off topic here. Point is, though, they're growing. All that to say, we don't necessarily know exactly in what ways or exactly how this will affect them going forward, but there is no doubt they are also preparing for next gen, and that's a very, very good thing to see. They want to be ready. They are growing as a company. They are absolutely ready to just dive into the quote-unquote Switch 2 generation. And that is very good. And we got a little bit of specifics here. We know that they are hiring for Switch Online. Here's another tweet courtesy of Stealth 40K. They're hiring game software development technical coordinator, front-end engineer, back-end engineer, director/planner. Just a bunch of positions for Nintendo Switch Online related stuff. They have no doubt made other hires for Switch Online. And this is also not surprising because we know, several years ago, pretty early in the Switch's life, they were talking about Nintendo Switch Online and how they want it to carry over into future consoles. So naturally, they're going to want to keep improving the service, and Switch Online, at least playing online, is still very, very inconsistent, and we're missing a whole lot of features and whatnot. So I can only hope that this means that going into next gen, they really got to improve the online. This is it's yet another bigger conversation, but you got to grow this department In particular, if you want NSO to be a thing, you want people playing online, using these services, paying for these services, you gotta keep making it better, please. So yeah, Nintendo growing a lot more than I realized. I will be very curious to see, I don't know, 8 years or so from now. How much will they grow over next gen? Will their company just keep getting bigger? Will things kind of normalize? I don't really know. But I do know that something, ba-ba-ba-da, ba-ba-ba-da. I am Arlo, reporting for Topic Arlo. And now over to Arlo with the weather. Shwow! It's, sunny. Got a little bit of a breeze. It's like sunny. It's not like hot, though. It's pretty nice, actually. Seattle is awesome. Seattle is, what is it? 62 and partially cloudy? All right, what would it be if I still lived back in California? What's the 101? Oh, 101, 105 in a couple hours? Wow, I made the right decision. Wow.